for the design of that building, because he said he designed it to make it look like a train emerging from a tunnel. And if you look very carefully at the building, squint your eyes, you can see that it looks absolutely nothing like a train coming out of anywhere, really. I think the best description of the building is one of those old Wurlitzer jukeboxes. I think that's what it probably looks like. Okay, so the first bridge we're going to pass beneath on the journey today, folks, Charing Cross Railway Bridge. Now, either side of the railway bridge, there are footbridges. These footbridges are the Golden Jubilee walkways. They was opened for the Queen's Golden Jubilee back in 2002, celebrating 50 years on the throne. Of course, 6 years ago, in 2012, the Queen celebrated her Diamond Jubilee, which was 60 years on the throne. If there's anybody walking across up there, give them a little wave and smile to the people on the bridge. It keeps their hands busy and stops them throwing things at us, which they can do. We're not safe yet, there's another bridge coming up here, okay, so keep moving, keep sliding, you should be okay, you should be okay. If they wave back, they're on holiday. If they don't wave back, they're from London and they're miserable. So you can sort of gauge where people are from. To our right, the Royal Festival Hall. This is one of the finest concert halls anywhere in the world. Opened in 1951 for the Festival of Britain. Over the years, many famous artists have performed inside the Royal Festival. These include Frank Sinatra, who has since sadly passed away, Pavarotti, who has since sadly passed away, Michael Jackson, who has since sadly passed away, and Whitney Houston, who also has since sadly passed away. We're just waiting for the Justin Bieber concert now. Oh, I'm glad you're now, hopefully, not too much longer. Waterloo Bridge ahead of us, ladies and gents. This is known as the Ladies' Bridge. Now, it was built by ladies during the Second World War, when a lot of men were away at war. The ladies built the longest road bridge that we have in London. It was also the only bridge built in London that was built on time and under budget, and during a war, which was summer cheap. Built using a very expensive self-cleansing Portland stone. It means every time that it rains in London, the face of the bridge receives a thorough cleaning. Looking back to the underside, you can see how dirty it is. That's obviously where the rain does not reach. Buckingham Palace and St Paul's Cathedral are just two buildings here in London which are faced with this self-cleansing Portland stone. To our left, behind the trees, we have Somerset House. Look directly beneath the green dome at the front of the building, you can see an arch. Now, years ago, the river used to flow into this building through that arch. But over the years, we've built up the embankment wall. And right behind the wall on the left is a sewage system which runs the length of the river. Before this sewage system was designed, the Thames was London's sewage. Toilets and waste would flush straight into the river. So a very clever man back in the Victorian era, an engineer called Joseph Bazalgette, designed this sewage system to clean up the river and to clean up the city. Now, as we've built up the river wall over the years, we've narrowed the river. That now gives us much higher tides. The river today flows a lot quicker. Years ago, the river was much wider. It flowed a lot slower. And on very cold winters, the Thames would freeze up. Now, folks, if you want to stand up to get a picture, you can, but then return to your seat, okay? There are people sitting behind you. Be a bit considerate to your fellow passengers. To our right, behind the trees, there's a low-lying glass-fronted building. It's a bit tricky to see, but behind that, there's a tall office block. And these two buildings go together to make Kent House, the headquarters for ITV Television. It's from these buildings that we get many of our TV shows, such classics as Jeremy Kyle, This Morning, X Factor, and all the other rubbish. It comes out there. It's also from the buildings on the right when they have news reports at various times during the day that they actually use this shot of the River Thames we're now travelling through as their background. Now, anybody who lives here in London will have no doubt seen this on telly. Anybody who doesn't live in London, right now we could all be on national TV. So don't be shy, give them a little wave over there on the right, you never know, do you? Especially if you're travelling with your loved one, you may get to see yourselves on telly. If you're travelling with somebody else's loved one, I suggest you quickly look to the left. People have been caught out. Looking ahead of us on the left at this point, folks, directly ahead, you've got a pretty good shot there of the City of London. Directly ahead, dominating the skyline, some of London's newest buildings. There's some weird and wonderful shapes. They have some weird and wonderful names. You've got the cheese grater, the scalpel, the gherkin, the walkie-talkie. Look off to the left now, there's one of London's oldest buildings, St Paul's Cathedral. And this is probably the best shot you'll get of St Paul's from the river today. Looking directly to our left, ladies and gents, there's a building with a green sloping roof and a black pinnacle on top. This is the old City of London School, where many famous dignitaries were taught in London. And if you look in between the arched windows of the building, there are 4 statues. From left to right, John Milton, William Shakespeare, Sir Francis Bacon, and Sir Isaac Newton. The last building on the left, the impressive semicircular building, is Unilever House, the headquarters for Unilever, the massive Dutch manufacturer, who seem to own pretty much everything. We're now passing beneath the Blackfriars bridges, the first one a road bridge, the second one a railway bridge. The red pillars in between are all that remain of the very first railway bridge to span the River Thames. Now, the top half was removed many years ago. They could not remove these supports for fear of disturbing the foundations of the bridges on either side. And on clearing the last bridge, ladies and gents, look up to the left, and once again we see the dome, the cross of St Paul's Cathedral, considered as Sir Christopher Wren's masterpiece. Now, it took Wren 35 years to build St Paul's, completed in the year 1710, so now over 300 years ago. Above the grey dome, there's a viewing platform. Now, it's closed on a Sunday, but through the week, if you're willing to climb over 500 steps, to get up there, there's no lift, okay? The views are almost as good as the views from the London Eye. Buried in the crypt of St Paul's Cathedral are some of our national heroes. Now, these include the Iron Duke, the Duke of Wellington, Lord Nelson, and of course the architect himself, Sir Christopher Wren. If you're going to be here in London for a few days, you should definitely try and visit St Paul's. It's one of the finest buildings, if not the finest building anywhere in the city. A magnificent building. Ahead of us we have the Millennium Bridge. You probably know it better as the Wibbly Wobbly Bridge. Opened by the Queen on a Saturday morning. Closed the very same afternoon by the police for being unsafe. It used to sway from side to side. People walking across the bridge were falling over. They were hanging on for dear life. They had to close the bridge, re-stabilise it. It was reopened again. It's been perfectly safe ever since. As we clear the bridge, look to the right, folks, behind the trees, a replica of William Shakespeare's Globe Theatre. The white circular structure with the thatched roof, an exact replica of Shakespeare's Globe. The idea of a man called Sam Wanamaker. He was a theatre director who sadly died before its completion. The project was taken on by his daughter Zoe, and it was opened by herself and the Queen just over 20 years ago. They reenact Shakespeare's plays inside the building. And folks, you can watch a play in there today for as little as £5, which is great value for money.